a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Aquilini.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself. I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin. Would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Well, happy August 1st. Happy Pride here in Vancouver. Happy halfway through the summer and happy Sunday and happy long weekend. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can follow us, of course, on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast, where we currently sit at 100 and the Rick Nash of subscribers, as we have been growing bit by bit here. So we thank you, everyone, for subscribing. Continue to like, share, and subscribe. As well as, of course, you can follow the audio for the of this after. Going to be a very interesting episode, as one of us was ratioed this weekend. We'll get into that. The Leafs did some signings, and there's some other stuff. Hello, Devin. How are you?
Hola, Kevin. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. You know, we had 1 millimeter, 1 or 2 or 3 drops of rain, which has excited all of Vancouver. So, you know, first rain in 46 days.
Not like you guys get enough rain as it is out there. So I'm surprised that they're happy about it, to be honest. Well, I know, you know, excluding the firefighting and, you know, the fires that are happening there, it is surprising to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's ironic just to see the flip of the situation, because normally they hate how much rain they get.
Yeah, now we're all like, rain. Yeah. How's it going, Chris?
Pretty well. How about you?
Good. Still good. Yep. Sean, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Kevin?
I'm still good. I'm still good. Yes. Jean-Guy already in. Kootenay needed bad. Yes, yeah. I mean, Calgary smelled like bacon when I was there. When was I there? When we were there like a couple weeks ago.
2 weeks ago? 3 weeks
ago?
Yeah. Something like that?
Yeah. It was 2 weeks ago. Do we want to start with what got me in trouble this weekend? Do we want to start there?
Absolutely.
Sounds entertaining to me.
Yeah, I feel
Let's
like
go off the rails already.
Explain yourself.
So this weekend, but we'll start with the story. Jack Eichel's agent sent out a tweet or a notification that tweeted out in regards to basically his surgery and what was needed, and when Jack Eichel wanted the surgery, and which was now, basically. And the agents are really kind of pushing Jack Eichel for this Jack Eichel trade to happen. It's not happening. Kevin Adams has said they're going to try to find the best deal available, and they're not in a hurry to do it. Now, the deeper part about all of this is we'll get into here what happened a little bit later. But as soon as that note came out, particularly Flames Twitter was jumping up and down. We should get him. Get Jack Eichel. Do it now, Brad. Do it now. And it went to the point that one influential, or one of the more influential Flames Twitterers suggested that there should be nobody on the Flames that should be untouchable in a Jack Eichel trade. And I just tweeted, I disagree. I think that you have to have some players on there that are untouchable, that you're like, there's a no-go. They're not going anywhere in a Jack Eichel trade. And I mentioned them. Lindholm, no-go. Matthew Tkachuk, no-go. Noah Hannafin, no-go. Jacob Markstrom, no-go for me. I think I missed. I think I meant to put. I put 29. I meant 25. And then the one that railed everyone and sent everyone off the rocker, including Cam Robinson, is when I put number 8, Chris Tanev in as a no-go. People were like, how dare you? This is Chris Tanev. You can get Chris Tanev anywhere. So let me just, I want to get this into two different levels here. So first of all, and one of the things that I think happened after all of this is the 31 Thoughts podcast came out where Elliot Freeman and Jeff Merrick interviewed Dr. Chad Rumsack. He is the doctor that wants to do the surgery on Jack Eichel. And so there's a big debate for the Buffalo Sabres. They wanted to do one surgery. Dr. Rumsack wants to do a kind of a new surgery that has been done on NFL players, but it has not been done in the NHL players. And this gets into a really sticky situation. So for me, when I'm hearing this and I'm looking at this health situation, to me, I am not inclined at this point to be giving up any core pieces to my organization for Jack Eichel at this particular point in time. I don't know his health situation. I'm not willing to give up the farm for a potential. Is he a franchise player? I'll grant you that. Is he a healthy franchise player? It's a very, very different question. And when you get to a guy like Chris Tanev, which everybody is freaking out about here, that seems to be, how dare you not want to give up Chris Tanev? The Flames already lost Mark Giordano this year to expansion of the Kraken. We already, argument or not about Tanev, ask Noah Hannafin what Chris Tanev has meant to his game. Actually, ask Quinn Hughes what Chris Tanev has meant to his game. Chris Tanev is a guy that is a warrior, and if you're trading him, your number one defenseman is Rasmus Andersson. Your number two defenseman on this team is a guy named Michael Stone, who has been part of the recycle bin in Calgary for some time, and you don't have a number three defenseman, and you don't have defensive depth. So my 2 points is I'm not giving up a core piece or what I consider a really major core piece for Jack Eichel. And sorry, whether you like it or not, Chris Tanev is part of the core of the Calgary Flames. And he's not a guy I give up that easily in a trade.
Just to clarify two things here. Number one, Michael Stone is not signed with the Flames yet. But
he's going to come back at some point.
He could be, but yeah, I understand where you're coming from with that. And when you're talking about number one, number two, it's on the right side.
Yes, on the right side, you have right now Tanev, Anderson, unknown. Tanev goes, you have Anderson, unknown. And Anderson is not a top pairing, not a top two pairing defenseman to me at this particular point in time.
Anderson will need it if this happens. Whether or not this happens or not, Rasmus Anderson needs to step up and take another step within his development and be a top, in my mind, a top pairing defenseman. But to this whole point, I understand where you come from because you can't really replace a Chris Tanev, the intangibles that he does bring to a team. With, like you said, Kev, the development of young players. I'm going to come at it from the opposite side here. I think that that's someone who you don't want to get rid of. But if it's for a number one center in Jack Eichel, even if he is like 75%, he is still a top two center within this league, in my mind. And Chris Tanev is 31 years old. He has 3 more years at 4.5. We all thought that this was the majority of people thought it was an overpayment on him last year in free agency. 1 more year too much, or maybe in 2 years too much, and at a cap hit of a bit of, let's say, $500,000 more than what he should have gotten. So, within saying that, Jack Eichel, how old is he? He's 22. 24. He's 24 years old. I would do the trade if Tanev was involved with it. Yes, you're losing all of the leadership and the mentorship that you have that he brings into that locker room and on the ice. But you're potentially getting a number one franchise center back. And in my mind, positions that are of importance go goaltender, then a number one center. And you cannot say enough about having enough depth up and down that lineup. Just ask the Vegas Golden Knights.
And I just want to clarify, it's Dr. Chad Prusmak is the.
I was trying to type as I talked. Dr. Chad.
Not Rumsack.
Not Rumsack. Prusmak. I think the question on where you sit with Eichel's health is a big part of this discussion. If you're not sold on his health, then you aren't going to want to give up anything that's going to weaken your team, even if you are adding Jack Eichel and in whatever context you get him in, whether it's 6-8 weeks after he gets the surgery or what. Also, where do you stand on what surgery it sounds the better for him? And for me, one, you have to go, if you're interested in this Eichel thing and you haven't listened to that 31 Thoughts interview that Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman did with Dr. Chad Prusmak, go listen to it. It is absolutely enlightening and shines a light on what the issue is. And one of the major issues is the more proven surgery for hockey players and athletes is the disc fusion surgery. But the newer one, which has been around for like 20 years, is the disc replacement surgery, and that's what Jack Eichel wants to get. But it hasn't been done on an NHL hockey player before. So the biggest worry for the Sabres is they do not want to be the guinea pigs. But what I took from that interview was that the percentage of chance that the spinal fusion surgery doesn't take and properly and you need to go in and get another one within 10 years is about 25%. While with the spinal replacement surgery, based off all the literature and everything, the percentage of chance that it doesn't work and you would end up having to go and get a spinal fusion surgery is 8%. So not to mention there's other things about the fusion adding more pressure to the discs above and below where that happens which can aid in creating more problems down the road as well. So whether or not where you sit on Jack Eichel's health really is going to steer how you look at that and where you're going to who and what you're willing to give up for him. I'm just seeing a comment here from James talking about the Sabres do not need a 31-year-old player in Tanev. I think this is more of a hypothetical discussion more than anything else in terms of where you value where you value players and what you're looking for and what and where you're valuing Jack Eichel right now. So I think I understand where Kevin's coming from in valuing Chris Tanev really highly. Everyone who's listened to me talk about Chris Tanev knows how high I am of him. But when you have the opportunity to get a franchise center, I wouldn't have him as untouchable, because it's right now. What the rumored ask from Buffalo from Vegas is Riley Smith, Peyton Krebs, Nick Hague, and a first. So that's 3 younger assets plus an NHLer. And I think that's when things are all said and done with all these issues behind Jack Eichel. I think it's going to be more of a 2 or 3 piece package where you're going to get a protected first, as well as a NHLer, and then not one of those blue chip prospects that everyone really not if it's the Flames, not a Zary, not a Peltier. It's going to be someone a step below. So in my mind, and I said this is all hypothetical. Say the Sabres do want Chris Tanev, and they're asking Tanev, Emil Heineman, who is the former second round pick that they acquired in the Sam Bennett trade, and a protected first. And I look at that and say, is that something that I would say no to based off of just Chris Tanev? No, I can't, because you're going to do your due diligence on where Jack Eichel is, and if you think he's still going to be a top line center, maybe not a franchise center, but still a top line center for the Flames, you take that every day of the week, in my opinion.
And to just before Chris goes here, Gene Guy, my favorite dude, says that he has a no trade clause. He does, but he's giving the Flames a 10-team list who he doesn't want to get traded to, and Sabres might be on that.
Chances are high it is that they are on it.
Yeah, considering where the Sabres are in the standings, that probably would be one of the teams that Tanev would have on his no-go list. That being said, I'm with Sean on this one in the sense that it's not a guy that I would want to give up in a trade, because I do value him in the same way that Kev and Sean both do. That being said, if that was the ask, I'd be willing to part with it. Just I wouldn't be happy about it.
I guess for me, I was a little bit of shocked that everyone went ape shit on Chris Tanev, because the point of this to me is the conversation. To me, my point of this is that someone making the statement that there should be no untouchables in a Jack Eichel trade, I think is a silly comment. I think it's probably a bit more sillier to me than me suggesting that Chris Tanev is a no-go. It's just simply, okay, Chris Tanev is not part of my package. That would not be a person I want to make a trade in a Jack Eichel move. I have some other pieces that I would offer, but to me, I think this desperation from some Flame fans that we should give up whatever the hell we can to get a Jack Eichel, I think is very misguided. I think I'm not saying he's overrated, but there are some questions that I would like answered before I make this trade. And it's basically, you look at the health, which is legitimate. No matter how you look, if you listen to the interview, this is a pretty major surgery that we're going through here. No matter how you look at it, this is serious. So to me, I'm not giving up the farm for Jack Eichel. That was my point of the tweet. I'm not giving up the farm for Jack Eichel. And for Flames fans to say give up the farm for Jack Eichel, that's a misguided take to me.
Now, I have a question for you then. Let's say it's a healthy Jack Eichel. Would you give up the farm for a healthy Jack Eichel?
Can you define what that means? Is this
zero problems, no neck issues, no spinal issues? If he was completely healthy. Yes.
I still would not give up Lindholm. I still would not give up Kachuk. I still would not give up Markstrom. And I forgot Mangiapane, by the way. I think Mangiapane would be on that list. And at this point, you can laugh at me if you want. I probably still would have Tanev on that list, but I probably would increase it a bit more. But I wouldn't get I'd be open to prospects, which according to James is what they're looking for. Monahan and a Goodrow, a Zary Pelche, maybe an unprotected first. But I still have about 4 or 5 on my list that I would be like, that's a no-go. Because if the thing is And there's a really good lesson up north in the Oilers and Connor McDavid. What do they have under Connor McDavid? They have a superstar, no question about it, but they don't necessarily have the depth and the pieces around them to compete for a Stanley Cup. And that's what could happen if you give up too much for Jack Eichel. There has to be a limit for this.
Yeah, there has to be one for sure. I mean, you also have Leon Draisaitl making 8.5 as well. And I mean, you're talking to a Leafs fan over here, and trust me, I know when you pay too much for forwards, it's hard to find the pieces around them to support them properly. So that's a great point. But Sean, what would you give up? What would you give up, or who would be on your protected list for Calgary if it was a healthy Jack Eichel?
Tkachuk, Lindholm. That's it.
Not
even
Markstrom.
Markstrom?
Well, Markstrom's got a no movement clause, so I don't. That's a no go right away. So in terms of realistic options, it's Tkachuk and Lindholm. Everyone else on the board.
And it is a full no move.
Probably in that same camp.
Sorry, Chris. I was just saying that Markstrom's a full no move.
Yeah.
So
So it realistically, Markstrom's got a full no move, so he's not going anywhere, and it's Lindholm and Tkachuk, and everyone else is on the table. If you're worried about the depth of that right side as a reason not to make that move, that's telling on roster construction for Brad Treliving too, because it's no like it just as you guys were talking about with the Oilers up there. Like, who else is below them? Who else, like, if you're worried about giving up a 31-year-old defenseman who, as we said, has a contract that is questionable in this league at this time, I would not. That to me, that says a lot about the roster construction. As you said, if you trade Tanev, you have Rasmus Andersson and who else on that right side. So that's again, it comes to roster construction. But if that's a no-go option, that screams bad roster construction in terms of being able to do that. But I'm not trying to make this out to being like going after Brad Treliving. I'm just pointing that out in terms of why I think that I can understand where Kevin's coming from in terms of where the Flames are with their right side of the blue line. But he's still a 100% healthy Jack Eichel is a point per game player, a 30-goal scorer. He is a true number one center, a franchise center, and I would not be outside of like I said, outside of Lindholm and Tkachuk. Everyone else should be on the table in that trade.
Okay, I want to hear Chris, but then I have a question.
So yeah, I'm not sure how much got through because I wasn't sure if I accidentally talked over someone, but I was essentially just saying that I'm in the same boat as Sean as far as those are my only two untouchables would be Tkachuk and Lindholm. Ultimately, yeah, I don't really have any more to add. I thought I had something there, but I didn't.
Okay, so let's say Vancouver and Toronto were in on this. Who are your no-goes?
For Vancouver, it's Petey, it's Hughes. Petey, Hughes would basically be it.
So you'd throw Horvat in a trade?
Yeah, I would.
Chris?
You have Pettersson, Eichel, 1-2 down the middle. Like,
I mean, as much as I would be hesitant to give up a Horvat, I can't argue Sean's logic. Like, if you're replacing that, and I guess that might potentially change my opinion on who I would protect in Calgary, because like if it positionally is Tkachuk's a winger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I might still hold on to Tkachuk. Lindholm can play both center and wing, though, right?
Yep.
So maybe Lindholm as like if if you're having to give up less younger prospects to give a higher chip NHLer in a Lindholm, I might be open to a Lindholm.
How about for Vancouver?
For Vancouver, yeah. Obviously, the two major untouchables are Quinn and Petey. Demko, I would be very, very hesitant, but with DiPietro in the pipeline, maybe I might be convinced. I wouldn't want to give up on like a JT Miller, but if you're getting an Eichel in return, yeah, I think it is ultimately just Petey and Quinn.
For Toronto, for me, Matthews. I think that
Marner, 1-for-1.
I think that's it. To be completely honest, Matthews and maybe Willie Nylander. I'd leave if Tavares was on it, even though he has a no move. I wouldn't be opposed to that, and maybe even a Marner. I'd be willing to potentially lose him for a Jack Eichel, and this is if you know the health is there. If you don't know the health is there, I probably would keep Marner, and yeah, I think I'd be open to trade Tavares for him.
And yeah, all these hypotheticals are being based off of a completely healthy Eichel, not the current state Eichel.
Okay,
right.
Current state Eichel. What are you giving up?
At Vancouver, I'm not trading for him because you've got Horvat and you've got Petey down the middle, and the contract and the health question marks are significant enough that I don't want that there's the money is better spent elsewhere.
I would rather make a trade for defense, not forwards. As like Sean, I'm happy with our forward core at this point. We need to improve on our defense, so Vancouver's not interested.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's just for me, Matthews, and I think I would take the risk on losing pretty much anybody else other than Nylander, because I think Nylander is outplaying his contract as of right now.
Yeah, I think that this is fascinating. I think this is not going to get solved right away. I think a lot of teams have a lot of questions. I think they're debating what they do for it, and I think we're going to have to wait until this surgery. I think either the Sabres need to go down. We need to determine this surgery happens. I think once the surgery happens, I think once whatever the surgery happens, I think we'll see here. But my big point is ultimately is I think you have to have I don't think that you go to Buffalo and say, what do you want? Take whatever you want. Give me Jack Eichel. I think you have to be smarter than that. You really do.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the flat cap era, you're not going to get any teams just dropping their pants to get a Eichel in his current state.
Yeah.
And I think that is the reason why everything's on a standstill, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I just the other thing to me, just this whole, you can find a Chris Tanev elsewhere. I'm sorry. You can find a right shot defenseman elsewhere. You can pay a lot of money for a right shot defenseman elsewhere. They got paid a lot this offseason, but I think Chris Tanevs don't grow on trees. They are the types of players that you win with. And I know that the analytics and all, you can graph and point everything out, but the actual intangible fact of the matter is you need a Chris Tanev type to win.
And I mean, we've talked about this on this podcast too, that I know Kevin and I agree that if Chris Tanev was named captain of this team, we wouldn't be surprised.
Nope. Adam jumps in and asks if maybe, and we'll have to get into it. Would the Sharks be in contention if the Kane contract gets terminated? We'll talk about Evander Kane in a moment here, but they have not been mentioned in this. I don't think they have the cap space to do it. I think they still have a lot of anchors that they need to deal with before they go after a Jack Eichel, in my mind.
Yeah, well, they currently have just over 5.5 in cap space, and Kane's contract is $7 million. So that would open up enough, but they still have to sign Aiden Hill, and they still have to fill out the rest of the roster because it's going to be other pieces. So I don't know. I don't think they have what it takes. I don't think they have the appetite. I think they should. I think they're looking at trying to build the cupboards. They have enough in the cupboards to make the trade work. I think someone else will find a way to give Buffalo more than what San Jose would be willing to give up.
Yeah, San Jose is a little too veteran heavy to have anything that Buffalo would be interested in.
And just looking at that defense, oh my God, it shocks me every time I see it. Erik Karlsson, 11.5 for the next 6 years. And then he's 31. Brett Burns, 36-year-old Brett Burns, $8 million for the next 4 years. Edward Vlasic, 34, $7 million for the next 5.
So much on D.
Man, talk about cap jail.
Yeah, and I guess the other question that teams are going to have to sample Jack Eichel or a Shane Wright / Brad Lambert or a lottery pick next year. That's ultimately the other question that teams are legitimately going to be asking about. Because a lot of people, Devin, I'm telling you, Shane Wright probably would have been the number 1 pick this year if he was available in the draft.
I don't doubt. I don't dispute you, man. I think if you're if you're thinking long term, yeah, you want to try and get those pieces for sure. But just ask Buffalo how it was trying to get McDavid. They got a really good player, but I mean, man,
try it again.
They're going to try again to do it, but it's. I mean, Berkey said it best. Pittsburgh model. What Pittsburgh model?
They got a goddamn lottery pick.
That's it. There it is.
Ironically, Berg is running that team now.
So it's a long shot to try and do it, but you do have the next 2 drafts are going to be deep drafts from what I hear. So if you're going to be building from the ground up, it's not a bad idea just to stand pat and keep on getting some picks or try and getting those get as many picks within those 2 drafts as possible. It sucks for James H in our chat here because he is a Buffalo fan, and God, I can't imagine the turmoil being within that. And yes, I'm a Leafs fan too, and talk about turmoil there. So I understand, but I just feel like the management within that Buffalo organization is a bit worse than Toronto.
A bit?
Buffalo's the American Ottawa, let's be honest.
Well, they're not yet. They're like the Detroit Lions of NHL. Yeah.
Yeah. But back to that point about trying to weigh the options, especially not with the health issues of Eichel. If you're not going to he's going to come off that surgery, and it's going to be how long is he going to be able till he is mentally 100% there, not second guessing every movement with his neck?
Yeah.
How long is he going to be until he's back fully with that? Then I look at that and I go, and you look at that's why I think any trade that will happen that has a first will be lottery protected because of that. You don't know what, even if you make the trade this upcoming week, Eichel goes into surgery, he's ready. He should, if he gets the disc replacement surgery, I believe that he would be. I believe it should be done. If it's done in the next week or in the next 1 to 3 weeks, he should be ready for the start of the season. But how long till again he's 100%? How long till you look at we go to the Flames with Yusuf Valimaki and Josh Leivo last year. Both of them came off big, significant knee surgeries, and I don't think either of them, we saw the best of either of them last year because of that. So you have to weigh that. And that's part and parcel to why this trade has not happened yet, is because teams know no matter what the surgery you get, happens, he's still going to be, you're still not going to get 100% Jack Eichel next season.
So then if he does get surgery, or even if he doesn't get surgery, do you see any sort of way that Eichel is traded within this next coming season, or is it going to be another offseason trade?
I see it getting done this offseason. I see that Eichel's camp pressuring it to a point where it's, the longer it goes on, the more of an embarrassment and distraction it would become to Buffalo and the Sabres going into the season, to a point where they, like, Kevin Adams will, his hand will be forced. So
I was going to ask, sorry for interrupting. I thought you were done. I was going to ask, do you think there's a possibility he might not show up to camp?
Yes. He's not showing up.
Yeah, I don't think he's playing. I do not think he's playing another game in Buffalo.
See, my thing though, Sean, just to your point about it being a distraction. A distraction for what? What is this team going to do next year? We all know they're not going to do anything of significance. If anything, it's just going to be a developmental year to see what you have within your system, within your young guys, and try and hope that they don't get fucked up somehow within becoming NHLers.
And that's why they're not in a rush.
It still needs to be done, because no matter as much of a tire fire that this upcoming season could be for Buffalo, you still need to. Kevin Adams still needs to do what he can to quell that as much as possible. He needs to make this trade, not only from that, but also if he doesn't make the trade before next offseason, Jack Eichel controls a lot more of the process, because he's got a no movement clause that kicks in the 22-23 season. So I think, and with it being a $10 million cap, it has to be an offseason trade. So, and you're not going to, I just look at that and like, it has to happen this offseason. It has to.
See, I just think that if he goes down the Joe Sakic route of the Duchesne trade, that he might be able to weather the storm. And if you have time, use it. That is the Lou Lamoriello letter of the law of him being a GM. And I think I'm more going down the road that if there is a trade out there, or if there has to be a trade out there that makes sense and that you're going to get the value for Jack Eichel, because you're not going to give him away for a bag of pucks or whatever the lowballing offers it has been and will be going forward. I think that there will be, if they wait till next offseason, before July 1st, or if it is going to be July 1st free agency, when that no movement or no trade clause, no movement clause kicks in, whichever one it is, then there's still going to be teams that are going to be wanting Jack Eichel, and that will, I think, pay, especially once whichever surgery he gets, once he recovers from it, what's his health like, and that you'll have a better idea. And I mean, you can, if you're Eichel, yeah, okay, you can hold out as much as you can, but you still want to showcase yourself that you're a good player. And so there is a chance that he might not put on another Buffalo Sabres sweater, but is that best for Jack Eichel and his career? I don't think so.
But if you're a general manager from another team trying to get Eichel, are you also? I don't think you're in a hurry either. I think you want to wait and see. You don't need him now. Mm-hmm. It's August, so we're not playing any games. We're still a bit ways from training camp. You may not, man. You may look at the risk and say, "Do I need him at the start of the season?" Maybe not, because you really need him for the playoffs. So you can wait this out.
I don't think it's that simple because of the surgery. Like we talked.
No, I know.
You listen to the 31 Thoughts, and they asked they asked the doctor if Jack can play without the surgery, and it was a pretty strong no.
Yeah, that's my point though.
But to counter that there, Kev, if you're going to make a trade for him, you want it, and you're trying to get him healthy and ready to play, maybe for the stretch run. That you still want you still want him getting that surgery as early as possible to give him a longer runway to recover and get strong and get as close to 100% as possible before the stretch run in the playoffs, if that's what you're looking at.
Well, there's one or two. I'm sorry. Are you finished? I'm interrupting you. Okay. But my thing is, either you do it in one of two ways. You do it before he decides, like you acquire him now, and you're like, okay, we are going to make this decision with you on which surgery you want. So you do it now, or you wait until he has the surgery and what's the actual result, and then you wait, then you make it. Or, yeah.
The problem with that latter one is that's a big part of why Buffalo and Jack Eichel are at loggerheads right now. Is the Sabres want him to get the spinal fusion surgery while he wants to get the spinal replacement disc replacement surgery. And if they don't, and if that still is button heads and he doesn't actually get a surgery, that's you're pushing back the timeline on when he's going to be back and in a spot to help you if you're acquiring him. So if I'm a team, I want to get him in. I want to get him in our situation, in our organization as quickly as possible, so you control the outcome a little. You control the outcome on that surgery more.
Now, the other thing that was asked on the second half of that, and the doctor was asked if any other team other than Buffalo has come and asked him about the surgery, and he did have an answer for that. And I'm not going to spoil it for you because you need to listen to the podcast. But that is significant. And I do also think, and maybe I'm insane, this is actually a very significant decision, not only for Jack Eichel, but for a lot of players coming up here. Because this is going to determine what a player or a team has a right to do in terms of health. This is a pretty significant decision. Like if this is Shane Wright as an example, and he needs a similar surgery, what happens? Even you look at Connor McDavid. Like what if the Oilers and Connor McDavid had a very different view on what was needed here? This is very significant. I don't think that this is something that it should be underestimated. This is a huge part of this.
Oh, and Sidney Crosby did a controversial rehab for his concussions, and I believe McDavid was talked to Crosby about doing the controversial, whatever was controversial, and like as far as the treatment was. So I think it started with Crosby, then McDavid, and now it's Eichel. So yeah, you are right, Kevin. It does become a bigger thing than just Jack Eichel.
Yeah,
because like from the organization standpoint, like they're just trying to mitigate risk. I understand that, but at the same time, you are literally controlling the potential long-term health of this player, and that player still has a human right to his own long-term health. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that sort of conversation plays out over the next couple seasons.
Yeah. And this leads me again, and I brought this up on Wednesday. There has to be someone else in play that we are not aware of. I mean, we cannot have 32 teams thinking, well, we're going to shop for just at one store. There's got to be another store somewhere that someone is making. I still wonder if that's out there.
And you're coming at it from a Flame standpoint. When you were talking about before, making a massive trade, because Tree Living says he's not done yet, and very curious on what that looks like. Is it going to be a defenseman, considering Flames defense isn't quite up there like we were talking about before. The depth that they have right now is not that deep, especially for NHL caliber defensemen. So you are right, Kev. There has to be another place where teams are going to be looking, and they're waiting for that Eichel ball to drop. Especially, for instance, if Sean Monahan is going to be moved, he's a center. Jack Eichel's a center, but everybody wants a big shiny prize up there, and until that happens, it's either going to a point where, okay, Eichel isn't going to get traded within this offseason. What's our number 2? What's our number 3 option if you want to get a good top 6 player or center? But yeah, you brought up Travis Konechny before, and I've echoed your sentiments about Konechny being potentially on the chopping block in Philadelphia. That's a good possibility. Gene Guy earlier in the chat on the comments said that Brett Burns should be considered. Maybe not at that cap hit, and the Sharks would probably have to eat a little bit of that money. But that's a good possibility too for him to go somewhere. Even at 36 years old, he's still an effective defenseman, playing a second line role in my mind. So there's definitely a lot of potential moves that we don't even know. And that's the one thing about being a GM, is that you're talking all the time with other teams to see who's available and at what price.
In that realm, look at Arizona for players that I don't think are getting talked about. I think the talk is that only Jacob Chychrun is basically off limits for trade talks with Arizona. I've heard rumors about Christian Dvorak. I don't see the fit in Calgary. I think they should be looking at Nick Schmaltz instead. If you're going to look down there, if I'm Brad Treliving, I'm looking at Nick Schmaltz. So I don't know if that might be something that they're looking at, but yeah, I think it's the other thing is Brad Treliving and the Flames need to make a move here. Because if you're right now, you look at their offseason and they lost Giordano, their captain, Giordano, to the Seattle Kraken in the expansion draft, and then your big move is to bring in Blake Coleman. I think there needs to be something else going. There's something else needs to happen to shake up this lineup a little bit more, and we'll see where actually that goes. But I think that's, as you said, Brad has said he's not done, and I'm totally expecting something big coming from him.
Well, even you look at, just take this away from the Flames just for a quick second and bring in Adams San Jose Sharks. That's a team that's really stale and needs a major shakeup, I would suggest. I mean, it's going to be hard for them to make that major shakeup with the cap that they have. But my point is, there are a number of teams out there that need some sort of drastic something that need different. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is another name on here that we're not paying, that's being quiet. That's my point. Yeah. Let's move on, unless there's anything else that we beaten the horse of Eichel to enough death. Stop, he's already dead.
He's dead.
He's dead. Yes. Rest in peace, that topic. The other, I guess, let's go to Evander Kane. That was the big story yesterday. Evander Kane's wife, Anna, went on Instagram and posted that basically accused Evander of betting on San Jose Sharks games. The NHLPR issued a statement quite quickly and said that we are taking this seriously and investigating it. It's a very horrible situation. I feel for Anna. It's very tough. I guess, where do we go now?
Well, there is always two sides to a story, right? I'm not taking anything away from Evander Kane's wife. Obviously, she's doing this for a reason, bring it up and bring light to it. Who knows if it's true or not? The fact that Evander Kane is willing to cooperate with the NHL for their investigation says a lot to me as well. That who knows what the other side of the story is. Robert Leonard came out on Twitter earlier today, and or even yesterday, within the past 24 hours, talking about there is two sides to a story, and I got to agree with them. We don't really know what is true and what's not true, and we're dealing with hypotheticals as we all love to do. And but if it is true, there is no wiggle room for Evander Kane within this. It is a black and white decision that if it is true, his contract is terminated, and he's, I believe, banned for life.
And it's not even just the betting on. There's other allegations that she made that, if they're true, it's absolutely horrific, and I don't want him anywhere near the NHL. If they're proven true. And this is all, again, it's her word versus his word right now. And for her to go off the way she has and continually try, there has to be some truth to it. So I really hope we can find a way to get to the bottom of it and understand what the truth is. But if almost basically all the allegations she's brought up, if any of them have any semblance of truth, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of that they're able to dissolve his contract and move on, because it's just it sounds like it's just a horrible situation that the NHL needs to take a stand and not only make a stand on the gambling aspects, but the spousal support and parental support that he's not providing, and everything just sounds horrible, and I really hope that that they're able to handle this properly, because it's one of those things that needs to be handled properly. It can't be half-assed. It has to be investigated properly, and if there's any sort of truth to the gambling or the issues with him not providing the correct support and everything to his family, they need to find a way to deal with it, and not only punish him but support him in his if he wants the help to help him get back from this, because it sounds like, because the one thing that she has said in multiple of her statements is that there's some addiction behavior with the gambling, if that is indeed true, and that is something that people need help with. So not only do we need the NHL needs to move on, but they still need to also provide the help if he's willing to accept it.
I was basically going to draw more onto the human, the fatherhood, the parent, the husband side of things, as opposed to the gambling, just because it's more cut and dry as far as the gambling. But Sean literally took all the words right out of my mouth. He worded it perfectly. So I really don't have much more to add.
Now, sorry, Kev, go for it.
I'll just quickly to add to what else is being on here, just to get the context of it, and then Devin, go ahead. In January, Evander Kane declared bankruptcy, $26.8 million in total losses. He was also sued by a professional bank in May for $15 million after the bank alleged he defrauded a company by securing a $1.5 million loan. And he is also accused of essentially abandoning her and their 1-year-old daughter, Kensington, and unborn son, forced to move out of their home by themselves and partied in Europe. And that is part of the post and as well. So there is a lot more to this for sure. But the highlight of it was that, but there's lots. Go ahead, Devin.
Like, obviously, I agree with you guys that the human aspect of it, of abandoning your wife and kid and not providing the proper support and not helping them out when they need it, is complete and utter nonsense. But the NHL can't do anything about that. Look, I mean, realistically, they have not shown they can't terminate him for being that type of person. They can terminate him for not for within the rules of the game of the CBA of the NHL, which is the gambling. If you're gambling on games that you're playing in, it's that is where it is. That's where it lies. As far as terminating contract, yeah, there's tons of bad people in the NHL. Realistically, not all NHLers are good human beings. That's just I mean, we heard the allegations of Mike Hoffman. He's still an NHLer. Go down the list. Brett Hall has been accused of being a not good person either, and he is arguably one of top 50 players to ever play the game. So
or everyone's bringing the Canucks into it, Ryan Kessler.
Exactly. So you can't just terminate a contract for someone being a bad person, but within the rules of the CBA, that's where you can get that player's contract terminated legally, and obviously Slava Voinov being another bad human.
I don't know, Devin. I mean, to me, I'm not a lawyer. Can play one on TV, but I wonder if somebody from some legal perspective can say that there's something that they could do one way or the other. I mean, I don't know if it's as black and white as you're saying, as in terms of, well, there's not much that they can do. I think that if there is a way to do something, they will find a way to do it. I mean, we haven't heard from the San Jose Sharks yet on this. So, I mean, other than there's some very serious, nothing directly from the organization yet. So, I don't know. I think that this just to me, I'm in a wait and see mode here. Kane doesn't have the greatest of reputations, but I'm not a lawyer, and I think there may be an easier way out of this than we are seeing.
Like they might be able to help the wife with like a agreement on spousal support or something like it, as far as forcing Kane to be able to help with that. But as far as whether that human side of things has any effect on terminating his hockey contract, I think I'm more on Devin's side.
Yeah, I think the easiest way and the most cut dry way is through if they can prove that he's gambled on NHL games while playing in them. That is the most cut and dry way to do it. There is a personal conduct clause in these contracts. I don't know how easy it is to hold it up, though, because we'll bring it back to the Vancouver Canucks and with Jake Virtanen. Because I think there has to be criminal charges brought up for those personal conduct clauses to really be able to kick in, and they can hold it up for disillusionment of the contract.
And that's ultimately what happened with Voinov, right?
Yeah, that's what happened with Voinov. So I think Devin is right in terms of the easiest, most cut and dry way to do it is to prove that he has gambled on NHL games, if that is indeed the truth.
And I think we're all in agreement that as far as what he's doing to his wife and kid, as far as lack of support and partying in Europe and all that shit, is deplorable and disgusting. And
absolutely,
yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just at this point, I just want to say be fucking better. Be a good human being, because no one deserves to be treated the way to feel that as helpless as she's feeling. Because the only reason she's posting on social media with all this is because she feels helpless.
Yeah.
So literally, I am so fucking tired of talking about bullshit human beings making horrific, stupid decisions. And I want to talk about on-ice stuff. I want to talk about GM stuff. I want to talk about all that fun stuff. I don't want to talk about this because it's not fun. It doesn't put a sport in a league that I love in the right light. we have to be fucking better. We have to find a way to just be better, because it just feels like every week there's another fucking bullshit story that we have to talk about. And we have to continue, even though I don't want to talk about it, we have to continue to talk about it so that we can bring these to light and hold these people accountable. Yeah. So we can make sure that things do improve. And hockey should be an inviting sport, not one that is divisive and people don't feel welcomed to it.
I'm just happy this is an NHL podcast, not an NFL podcast, because if we were talking about deplorable human beings doing terrible stuff, man, it'd be a week-long podcast of that BS that's happening in that sport. So, Sean, 100% agree. Unfortunately, people are going to be people, and this won't be the last one, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, but the NFL has gotten better, to be fair to them. But
they've made an effort to be better. Whether they've been marketably better might be up for argument, but I think that's a whole nother conversation that we're probably not wanting to have right now.
Yeah. I'm going through the NHLPA to see if I can find anything on something there, but there's only 540 pages, so
we can tweet that out later. Yeah. Kevin, you're not busy, are you? Talk about one of the busiest human beings. Oh man.
Yeah. We have to talk. It is a story. We have to talk about it, and we'll leave it there at this particular point. The Leafs did make some news here. They signed Andre Koss, and Nick Ritchie, I think, has been signed to contract. Yes. Devin. Do we plan the parade down Yonge Street, or does it go down Bloor Street now? Do we invite the Toronto Blue Jays in their baby blues? What are your thoughts?
I mean, God. It's Kasha, not Kosh. Just saying, for Andre Kasha. For
the guy that butchers names just called me out for butchering a name, which is okay, totally.
You should feel.
I'm sorry. Who's your favorite commenter in our comments again?
Gene Guy.
Yeah, right.
Solier.
Hi, John D.
Mr. Solier. Okay. To the contracts. Andre Kasha, 1.25 for 1 year. I think it is money. I think as far as if he can come back and play like he has played in the past. He has big concussion issues. He was traded for a first rounder right before the COVID hit, pretty much. And I just think his upside is worth way more than 1.25 for 1 year. It's kind of a show me deal, if you will. If he's able to come back and play that he has been able to play, when he is at the top of his game, he is a good two-way forward that can score. He has scored over 20 in this league, and he probably will be showcased in that top six in the first two lines. And I just think that having him on that contract for all the question marks that he does have is perfect. Now for the Nick Ritchie deal. You know what? Hey, another deal of kind of a show me kind of deal. 2 years at 2.5. You know, he's not going to be a Zach Hyman player. He's not going to replace him. But I think having a big body like that that can show some skill, I think is a fantastic risk reward on that as well. So both signings, I'm over the moon happy with them. Kasha, for instance, if he doesn't pan out and can't play the way that he has been able to play, they can bury that contract for a minimal amount of money. And Nick Ritchie, you can put him up and down the lineup. It's just he needs to work on his consistency. He's not consistent game in and game out. So that's kind of his downfall. But his upside is definitely there. And talk about them getting bigger, stronger, and it can't be pushed around as much. I think it's a good signing.
I'm curious what your take on why Boston let them both walk is.
Kasha makes sense. It didn't pan out. He was injured. He didn't play much because of his concussion issues. Nick Kreichie, I'm not 100% sure exactly why they let him go. Kind of surprises me a little bit. I think not really knowing exactly what Boston has going on right now. I don't have it in front of me as of yet, but I mean, they did just lose, or not lose, but David Kreichie decided to go home to the Czech Republic, so he's not on the team anymore. I think it had to do with cap space. Looking at it right now, they only projected cap space right now is just over $1 million, and it looks like they have pretty much everybody signed except for a backup goalie. I believe. But
they've got Jeremy Swayman, but he's in the AHL
right.
on cap friendly right now.
I was curious because I was this close to putting Richie as my last guy on the protection list when we did the protection list. So I was surprised to see him walk.
I mean, there's a couple questions on there for sure about the protection list for Seattle, let alone Jake Bean not being on Carolina's, which was a big head scratcher for, I believe, the majority of the NHL. But I when I did my protection list, Chris, for the entire league, I was just mocking it up. Yeah, and Nick Kreichie was on mine for sure.
I mean, the Leafs and Bruins just basically swapped physical left wingers, with the Bruins picking up Nick Foligno, and then the Leafs getting Nick Kreichie. They swapped Nicks.
One Nick is 8 years younger than the other Nick, and is over just $1.2 million more than the younger one. So I would rather take the
former captain.
Former captain. He has a no move clause for not this season but next season as well. For Nick Foligno is who I'm talking about. So you know what, I'd rather take the risk of having, you know, the lesser of the Knicks and at a lesser cap hit, considering where Toronto is in the cap, what they have left in the cap, which is 0 cap space. So
cap is a bitch.
Well, you look at Boston too. They have some young guys that they need to start to kind of find room for. Jack Stanitka is a guy that I think they have to find some room for. Trent Frederick was a guy I do believe he actually ended up protecting, Chris. Carson Kuhlman as well. And that lineup is getting a bit stale. We talk about teams that may need a little bit of a shakeup. I wonder if Boston's a bit getting there a little bit. They've had that perfection line there for years, and I'm not saying that they need to change there, but there's a bit of staleness in that organization too as well. So I don't know. Maybe that was part of it too. Not that Kasha was there for a long time, but
no. And there's rumors about Jake Debrusk as well, and it's been out there for a little bit here that he could be he probably is on his way out, trying to find a different landing spot. Very similar to Sam Bennett, where he's kind of the inconsistency is there. He was a big part of that team when they made a push in the playoffs a few years ago, but ever since then he's not been able to produce on the level that they feel he should. So they're going to try and move him, I think, within the next year. Because he only has 1 year left at, I believe, $3 million, or 3.675. So, and he's only 24 years old, left winger. I think he has a bit of upside, but maybe has lost faith within that upper brass.
Yeah, and don't sleep on Charlie Coyle. I do think he's a good centerman. I really do. He hasn't produced all the time, but I've always liked Charlie Coyle. I think that's a good little sign pick up there for Boston too. And the dog agrees.
That's not Gord. You can hear the low rumbling. That's Gord. But the other one that's barking is our neighbors who can't really shut their dogs up. That's yeah.
Well, we thank the dog for listening to the podcast, though.
They're just wanting to chime in.
All right. Okay, so I guess maybe let's do kind of just a bit of a wrap up of the off season here. kind of who is some teams that you were impressed by? Who are some teams that you are left scratching your head? We'll start with Chris on this, and then we'll kind of go around.
As far as a head scratcher, I think a lot of people are probably going to say Carolina. As far as figuring out their strategy, I think is I don't understand it. So as far as how they plan on filling out their roster and getting back to being as dominant as they were last season is going to be an interesting one. I think I'm going to hold off on who I'm most impressed by just because I'm not quite sure yet. I'm not sure there's one that's like head and shoulders above the rest for me right now.
Sean?
I was going to say, let Devin go off. I know where he's going, and I want to hear it.
All right, I have a few teams, but once again, Joe Sakic. What the fuck are you doing? I'm sorry. I don't understand why you let Grubauer go because he wanted one more year, an extra year, what he signed for with Seattle, which is 6 by $5.9 million. And they, from what the rumors are, Sakic wanted 5 years at 5.5. Not much different. I know you have a bunch of contracts that are coming up and that you need to sign your best player in Nathan McKinnon, I believe, next year. But you gave up a first and a grade A prospect in Timmins. And, I mean, it's a conditional third rounder if Kemper plays half the games and they win the Stanley Cup next year, they get that third. I don't understand why they let that happen. It just boggles my mind. So that's one of the teams that I'm kind of questioning. I don't really understand it. I don't know. He's done a great job, as we talked about before with the Duchesne and being able to hold off on that trade. I thought the Devin Taves trade was very, very well done. And other than that, I don't know. I'm very surprised with that. But my winners of this offseason is actually the New Jersey Devils. I think they came away laughing, getting Ryan. Once again, okay, talk about a bad trade. Getting rid of Ryan Graves there, Sakic. Well, I don't understand that one either. But Ryan Graves is now a New Jersey Devil, along with Dougie Hamilton. I thought that them coming away with Dougie Hamilton, Ryan Graves, getting Luke Hughes in the draft, and having the pieces in play right now, like a Nico Hischier, like they I think that they really they came away laughing, and they're building for the future for sure. So I think Tom Fitzgerald has done a great job with that with this offseason. A sneaky underdog for me, I think in this offseason was Los Angeles Kings getting Philip Deneau at that contract. I think that he's going to be a hell of a player. I'm not happy that he's within the Pacific Division. We're going to see a lot of him against all of our top players here for Calgary and Vancouver. So I think that that's really good. And my big question mark is actually the Vancouver Canucks. I'm very interested to see how they do this year. I mean, the moves that have been made, controversial, whether good or bad, getting rid of those contracts, getting Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I think the best move that Benning has made is getting Connor Garland, signing him to a long-term contract, 5 years at just under $5 million is really good, let alone curious to see if Quinn Hughes can take that next step. He took a step back, in my opinion, last year. I think that the Vancouver fans were expecting a little bit more from him. And I think that there is a good chance that they have that Vancouver can, as an organization, can take a step forward this year. It's just, man, it is a question mark. It really is.
The team that I look at and I question is actually Boston. I look at what they've done. I'm not sold on Charlie Coyle as a top six center. You look at his stats, and he doesn't produce like one. So I think that's going to hold them back. And that the contract that they signed Elmark to, I think is quite the gamble. Could pay off. If he can be a true number one starter, or even just a good 1A with Swayman, then it's going to look good. But I think there's some question marks there. I'm also with Devin on Colorado. I don't think they're a better team now than they were last season. Losing Ryan Graves is big. Don't underestimate the loss of Brandon Saad up front. They're basically really hoping that Tyson Jost takes a step forward. You get some more out of JT Compher, as well as Alex Newhook. If Alex Newhook can come up and be a top 9 forward for them, that'll be huge. And it also will come down to whether or not their young defensemen, Samuel Girard and Cale Makar, can learn from the playoffs. Because I think they are going to be a top. They'll be one. They'll likely win the Central, but it's going to be all about what happens in the playoffs with that team. So, and they lost one of their big physical defensemen in Ryan Graves. So I think those two really are the ones that stand out to me in terms of, I'm not exactly sure what's going on there.
And let alone Kemper, he has had a lot of injuries as well. Can he stay healthy?
Yeah. So I think those are the two, and I'm a little bit with Chris, where I haven't quite been able to see a team that I look at and go, I think they're drastically improved. I think that the no deal in LA is interesting. I think it's an overpayment, but I think he fills a role. But the other thing is how far that team goes is all on the kids. You've got Byfield, you've got Turcotte, you've got
Kempe,
Tyler Madden, Arthur Kaliev, Rasmus Kapari, all up front. Samuel Fagemo, Akil Thomas. They've got a lot of good young forward prospects, and if one or two of them can step up and become true top 6 forwards in this league this season, I think that's watch out for LA, but I'm still not sold on their blue line. I still think it's adding Edler is good, but we were also talking about the Edler who's not the Edler that we know and have loved as Canucks fans. He doesn't have the wheels that he used to have. So, but that Pacific Division is wide open. I don't think there is even if you think that Vegas is the quote unquote favorite to win the division, I don't think it's clear cut as it right there. I think you look at Vegas's center depth is a question. Can Leonard be a full-time goalie for them? It's just what does the locker room feel like after multiple years of losing key locker room guys? Last year is Nate Schmidt. This year you lost Fleury, Reeves, and it's just where does that locker room? How does that locker room feel now? I think that is a legit question that I think should be out there with Vegas. But I'm just ready for I'm ready for training camp. I'm ready to see where everything's at. I'm ready for whatever the next shoe to drop for the big trades, because that's going to shake things up too. As we talked about earlier, Brad Treliving, I don't think it's done. I don't think Boston's done. I don't think the Rangers are done, let alone whatever happens with Jack Eichel in Buffalo. Like there's still going to be a couple earth-shattering moves in this before training camp starts, or even during training camps.
For me, I guess the two that I would be close to saying are the air quote winners. Chicago getting Marc-Andre Fleury, I think puts him. That's a good move, and I think that hurts. That will hurt Vegas. I think I agree with Sean on that. And Winnipeg getting Nate Schmidt and Brendan Dillon, I think was shrewd overall. Those were the closest I would say to so far winners. I think I don't like Carolina's offseason, but I will say I think that Ethan Bear trade is going to turn out a lot better for them than people think. There was an article in the Edmonton Sun saying that it's going to be a lot better for him in Carolina. I think he's going to have I think he's poised to have a breakout season. If you are in a fantasy hockey league next year and you want a late pick, I think Ethan Bear might be a sneaky good pickup. I honestly think that Carolina stole him from Edmonton. I really do. But I'm not willing to give Carolina the win on that. There's a lot of teams like Seattle got Philip Grubauer. I think is a really good move, but I still don't know where they're going to get their offense this year. Like, I really don't know. I still have offensively, I still haven't figured that out. LA has made some good moves, but I still not convinced about that defense, even with Alex Edler there. And I think he'll help. I think we're going to see about 2 to 3 major moves before the start of training camp. I'm being that bold. I think that there will be an Eichel, but I think we're going to see a couple of other big moves, especially for the teams that don't get Eichel. Something is going to, some other fruit is falling from the tree, and someone is going to pick it up.
Well, there's still a lot of RFAs that need new contracts. Kirill Kaprizov, that's something to watch. He's a 10.2C RFA, so he can't be offer sheeted, but he's trying to use the KHL as leverage with Minnesota. They also have Kevin Fiala in Minnesota to sign. Andrei Svechnikov needs a new deal in Carolina. Florida hasn't got a new deal with Reinhart yet. Brady Tkachuk in Ottawa needs a new deal, as well as Drake Batherson. Everyone knows it's PD and Hughes in Vancouver. There's still a lot of stuff that can move around and shake things up before the season starts. So trying to assess winners and losers in terms of where teams are going to be come the fall when the season starts, it's still way too early.
Yeah.
Would you
go ahead, Devin?
Would you offer sheet Brady Tkachuk?
What team?
Yeah, what team?
I mean, if you can make it work, I would try and get him out of Ottawa if you could make it work. But the only problem is Ottawa does have almost $30 million in cap, so there's a good chance that they would match it. But I think that I would love to see if I'm a fan of. I really not a team off the top of my head right now. I can't think of a team that would be able to offer him what. Yes, Kevin.
If I was Calgary, I would highly consider offer sheeting Drake Batherson.
Maybe.
What would you offer them to have? Right now, they don't have the picks in what I would say the realm that you'd have to offer Drake Batherson and to get Ottawa to walk away. Because you're not Drake Batherson's not someone you're gonna. I'll actually pull up the cap friendly offer sheet calculator. It shows you what teams have the cap have the draft picks available. So you're looking at right now. The only offer sheets the Flames could offer would be between just over 2 million and just over 4.1. But the return is a second round pick, and Ottawa matches that. And then they don't have the picks to do anything until a max one, and that's 4 first round picks. And you're not doing that for Batherson.
So scroll up to the top there. What are we looking at for teams that? Sorry, scroll down is what I was trying to get at. There we go. So 4 first rounders, if you want to offer sheets a player for over 10.2. I mean, if there's going to be one player, I think, maybe two players that I can think of off the top of my head that might be worth it, it would be a Brady Tkachuk, and it would potentially be a Elias Pettersson. I love Brady Tkachuk. I love him.
I wouldn't give him 10. Not yet.
His upside is ridiculous. His size, he's a Tkachuk. His willing to win. Don't take Matthew Tkachuk after the puck flip incident with Muzzin. We've talked about that and talk about a horse that's dead. That one's fucking dead. His Brady with his skill set, I think that he's a sneaky damn good player, and talk about a guy who hates losing as well.
So in your world then, Devin, you offer sheet Brady. You give you're willing to give up 4 first-round picks for him. So then you'd be willing to add, are you keeping Matthew, or are you putting Matthew in a trade for Jack Eichel?
You keep Matthew. You have both of them. The only problem is that you do have to re-sign Matthew Tkachuk, and Matthew Tkachuk's qualifying offer, Kev, is over $9 million. It actually might be $9 million on the dot. So if depends on, we've had this debate too of which Tkachuk is better, and I think it's damn close, but I think Brady Tkachuk has potential to be a better player.
And you think both of them are worth $10 million players, huh?
I'm saying that so Matthew is an RFA with ARB rights next year, and he could walk the Calgary Flames a 1-year deal to $9 million at 1 year. Not saying he's worth that, could be, but that's facts. So when it comes to Brady, I think Brady's a better player, and I think that he has the potential to be a better overall hockey player than Matthew potentially could be. So I would gamble on what I see and his analytics, and the fact that he's number 1 in hits, number 1 in shots this year. That says a lot.
But my counter argument to that would be, you just said that the most important position at the start of this podcast is center, and then you have $19 million on 2 wingers, and you still don't have a number 1 center.
Yeah, you told me in the past though you think Elias Lindholm is a number 1 center, a 1A 1B, but he's still a 1 in there.
Yeah, okay, but he's okay, but we've all. I guess I would do it if you're willing to trade Matthew.
So then you're swapping parts out for the potential better player, and getting a.
If Matthew can get me another number 1 center, then I would consider doing it. But
I would consider doing it too. Don't get me wrong. But I think having the two Tkachuk brothers on the same team, potentially on the same line, that's a fun little asterisk beside all that.
Oh, they would make friends everywhere.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
The friendship tour.
The friendship tour.
But I do understand that thought of if that does happen, you could potentially trade Matthew. But then, how happy would Brady be? The fact that you depending on because he has to sign it. You can offer an offer sheet, and the player doesn't have to sign it. The whole thing, if we're talking about Calgary here, would be that he gets to come and play with his brother.
Yeah, that's how you're selling it. So you're not getting Brady unless you have Matthew. And the other thing is, Brady can play center.
He's a big boy.
He's taken over 300 face-offs. He took over 300 face-offs in 1920, and it was over 250 face-offs in this past season. you could find a way to make a line with him at center work.
Okay.
I
guess
don't know if I would go the full for the max offer sheet route there with Brady, but it would be one hell of a swing for the fences.
The only reason why I said that top tier is because I think anything below that, Pierre Dorian says that's a no-brainer. But this, I think, would make him think about potentially not having that and getting 4 first rounders. Because how many times it has a team divvied out first rounders, Andre Kasha being one of them, and it not working out? This is a for sure thing that you can get. That's an NHLer for the next 7 years.
I think there's going to have to be a swing for the fences. Like where I am not disagreeing with you is there has to be someone is going to do something insane, because the way that everything is shaking out at this point, like with the teams that are not done and the players that are available, the player that everyone is focusing on, only one team is going to get them. There has to be something else that shakes out. So I'm not opposed to your idea. If I'm Ottawa, I even at max, I'm probably matching, but
you got to think that Dorian would be questioning it. He'd be like, "Oh, I don't know. I gotta take a look at this." Otherwise, it is a no-brainer, like Sebastian Aho with Montreal.
Yeah, and I've said that with Petey as well. I think that if it's a max contract, if you're Vancouver, you at least have to. You're thinking about it. You ultimately match it, but you think about it.
If you're matching that, if it is a max deal over 10.2, you only have 14. You have only $4 million left, or maybe just under 3 to sign Quinn Hughes. So it's about putting what an offer sheet does, and I love it because it creates a lot of chaos. I'm upset about it because GMs just don't seem to have the fucking balls to do it.
Okay, Devin, I'm going to ask you a question to piss Sean and Chris off. Should the Flames offer sheet Pettersson?
I would love it. Talking about fucking chaos, I would absolutely love it. Should they
start that rivalry again? That'll certainly do it.
Oh man, absolutely. I think I might. My only thing is that Brady Tkachuk is a complete player in my mind right now, and I'm not saying Pettersson isn't. What I'm saying is that Brady Tkachuk's a bigger body, right? And depending on, because we do have Daryl Sutter here, and he loves that type of player. I just think that I probably would do it. I would do it. Yes. I'm talking my way into it. I would do it.
I'm not saying PD's as big as Brady, because that's obviously not the case. But have you seen his photos of him in Greece recently? Kid's buff. This is not the same like bare bones guy that we drafted.
Have you seen Brady with his shirt off?
Well, hey, I'm not trying to put them side by side.
No. What I'm telling you is that he's not toned. He's got a little bit of fluff on him. Well, we're talking about two separate. Like you're talking about. Sean said that Tkachuk could play center, and he has played. He has taken a significant amount of draws, and Petey. God, he's a wonder. He is an amazing hockey player, and yes, I would do both for sure. And I'm not taking anything away from Pettersson. I'm just looking up his height here. He's 6'2", and right now listed at 176. And Brady Tkachuk is I'm typing Brady. Brady is 21.
6'4", 212.
That's it. 2 inches taller and 40 pounds heavier. And they play separate games too. So, I mean, it's hard to compare. But to Kevin, once again, to Kevin's point, would I want Calgary to offer sheet? Yeah, I think I kind of would. I think that'd be kind of fun. But once again, Kev, we're talking about 2 drafts. You've talked about it multiple times. 2 drafts coming up with high-end players that are coming out number 1 and number 2, and they're deep drafts. It depends on are you in a win now mode, or are we looking to build? And right now with Calgary, you're wanting to win now.
Yeah, that's actually a solid point. Like, if the next 2 drafts are deep and you're potentially giving up 4 firsts, big price.
It is a big price with number 1 draft picks. That the average is 1 out of 3 in the first round play over 200 games, or I believe it's something along those lines. And that's massive. But once again, with those draft picks, you're getting a certainty, with obviously without injury, that what you're getting is a quality player. And obviously, you're not going to be offer sheeting some Joe Blow at $10 million, hoping that he's going to be okay. These are proven commodities.
Yeah.
Maybe one more guy I just want to toss out there. He's not a center. Tyler Batuzi.
In terms of
he
what?
signed.
Yeah.
Did he sign? Okay. Oh, he has to sign.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, he signed a 2-year deal. His cap hit is 4.75.
Well, are you talking about offer sheeting still, Kevin?
I was thinking about that, but if he's been offer sheeted, then forget it. But
Yeah, as far as the trade goes, that's somebody who you could you definitely want on your team too. I think that he has a lot to give and has a lot of intangibles within his game that makes him very attractive to other teams. Once again, depends on where Stevie Y is looking at for a trajectory. How old is he? Do we know?
He is 26.
26. So it could be one of those pieces that you're willing to part with, or with probably within the next 3 years. That's when they're probably wanting to push for the playoffs and start building up something here. Is he a part of your future? Maybe. Depends on who you can get back for him.
Yeah.
I'll just pull up the remaining RFAs. The 2 big ones, Kaprizov and Hughes, are 10.2 Cs. Can't be offer sheeted, but yeah, you can see the list of names that are still unsigned on and are RFAs. So you've got Svechnikov, Sam Reinhart, Kevin Fiala, Andrew Kopp, Jacob Vrana, Brady Tkachuk, Jordan Kyrou, Drake Batherson, Maxime Comtois, Neil Pionk, Igor Sharangovich, Anthony Beauvillier, Philip Ronick, and more, as well as Rasmus Dahlin too. I just saw that he needs one. Flames still have Dylan Dubé, Keller Yamamoto, Petey. There's Kotkaniemi. There's some players available if teams are willing to either work for trades, which I think is more likely, or actually stepping up and, as Devin says, having the balls to properly offer sheet a player.
Yep.
As Devin says, having the balls to
and an echo, making sure that that's clipped in there apparently. Yeah. No, I
What's happening here? Oh, that's Sean.
I just think there's going to have to be something huge. Like not everyone's going to get Eichel.
No, not everyone's going to get Eichel. Just looking at those top 2 that I think are on are within that realm of getting offer sheeted. Sean brought up Sam Reinhart. I believe they're good to go after they signed Reinhart, but they do have $7.8 million, the Florida Panthers, left in cap space. And then if you're looking at the Carolina Hurricanes, it looks like they're pretty much good to go after signing Svechnikov, maybe another depth signing here, but they have 11.8. If I'm a team, I might go the Svechnikov route, because they seem to be frugal as fuck when it comes down to contracts, and that they don't like spending money. They thought that the reason why they went away from Nedeljkovic, Calder candidate, is because they thought it was going to be too much money, and they probably had those conversations. So if you're going to do one, it might not be a bad idea to try and get Svechnikov out of Carolina.
Go ahead. Yeah. To me, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
No. All I was going to say was a valid argument. I didn't realize I was almost cutting you off. So go ahead.
Yeah, I guess in conclusion, if I'm the Flames, I would offer Sheet Petey or Tkachuk or Svechnikov. I really would. And but if I'm telling you, NHL teams, I would toss an offer sheet out at Oliver Shillington. That would be a guy I would be doing it too as well. Just saying. I'm just saying.
Yep. But once again, none of these GMs seem like they have the balls to fucking do it. So it's frustrating for us fans. And the amount of times that it's been brought out, it never happens, or it rarely does happen. You had Shea Weber offer sheeted by Philadelphia, Nashville matched. And yeah, you have, like I said, Aho with Montreal a few years ago too. So it does happen, but it seems like they don't have the balls to actually do the proper research, Mark Bergevin, to figure out, okay, yeah, they're this team is going to have to question it for a bit here to actually try and push for one. But it's hopefully something happens. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Philly who offer sheeted Kessler way back in the day too?
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So two swings and a miss for Philly.
And it happens that you don't get them, so maybe it's not worth it. But there's got to. I don't know. I keep saying it. That maybe I'll stop saying it. Yeah. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
Tyler's hair. No.
Yeah, he's playing ball. I'm sure that the hair is flowing as he's diving for the catch. What position does he play? I wonder.
That boy.
Oh.
All I know is he's probably when he sees that Devin's giving him a hard time, he's going to get angry and he's going to go Chernobyl on him.
Nice. All right, let's leave it there. How do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
I'm at Schneids on most social media.
Follow me on Twitter, Gordhouse09.
Can you put that handsome man up again?
There we go.
Follow this man right here, TNOBLE on Twitter. I am KEVOLE, podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the hockey podcast, YouTube.com, the hockey podcast. I think we're going to go back to once a week now because I think things are going slow, but if there is an explosion, we will be there for you. So keep an eye out for that. But so we're scheduled to be back next Sunday, 11 Pacific, 12 Mountain. Join us then. Thanks, everyone. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.